first and foremost, you guys tell me what is it? What's an incident report when you write a report? What is it?
It's letting you know, well, it's documentation, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
of what happened.
Okay. Yeah. So you almost hit the nail on the head. It's a way for you all to let us know about incidences or concerns that happened in our residence hall buildings, but specifically regarding students' behavior. That's really what these incident report forms are for. Divvy that out. It may be something you were informed of, something you had overheard, maybe tasks that you completed in regards to responding to some type of incident or situation. So for example, today I had an incident report that I had to follow up on. I asked Restar Base to send out some folks down to House P to go check on something for me. While they came and verbally told me what happened, which is fine, one of the other options they could have taken was also to write a report, because that was information I needed to know what was going on. Layman's terms, it documents what took place. We tried to make that as simple as possible so that you all understood where this was coming from. What reports are not, they are not a citation or a write-up. Some of the returning RAs or other folks who've been on duty before will tell you I am not a fan of that terminology. You are not writing anyone up. You're not giving anyone a ticket. You're not even actually getting anyone in trouble. You're just writing a report of what happened, and it's for the professional staff, for us to determine what needs to happen from there. Because frankly, y'all don't get paid enough to have to make those decisions, okay? So it's really important to be aware when you're meeting with students or guests and visitors to campus like we are this summer with our camps and conferences, that you're aware that you're not getting anyone in trouble and you're not writing them up. But also, it's not a WIP. You guys know what a WIP is, correct? The way to put in a work order when there's damage or facility issues. So again, this report is about student behavior. So if you're writing a report because there's a hole in the wall, that could be about student behavior because somebody put that hole in the wall, right? That violates our policies, but we just don't know who it is. That incident report that you're gonna write doesn't mean that a work order gets put in. That's still your responsibility. So there may be times where you not only call facilities, but also have to put in a WIP and also have to write an incident report, okay? But also, if you need support in some way, either from housing full-time staff or from the police department, that's not what this report is for. This report typically doesn't get read until 8 a.m. the next business day. Sometimes Steve will be awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, and our director of housing and res life may read your report at 3 o'clock in the morning, but more often than not, it's not being processed or handled until the next morning. So that's just something for you to be aware of with our report system. So we wanted to give you some tips so you knew what we expected when writing a report. The first is write the documentation promptly. Have you ever read or heard something and be like, oh, I'll write that down later, and then 3 hours later you're like, what was I gonna write down? I don't remember. That's why we do ask that reports are written within an hour after the resolution of the incident. The reason for that is the information is fresh in your mind. We know sometimes, especially if an incident happens at midnight, but the resolution doesn't happen for another 4 hours, and now it's 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. We get that sometimes it takes time and that's rough and hard, but we ask you to do that right away so that you don't forget stuff when you come back later. And there may be also things right away at 8:30 in the morning I have to take care of once I read that report. That's why it's so important that those reports get written promptly. This next part, good reports will have a beginning, a middle, and an end. When I was in elementary school, I don't know if they still teach writing this way, but we were taught to write a good essay. You have the intro paragraph, the supporting paragraphs, and the conclusion paragraph, right? That's all this is. The beginning is the context. How did you get to the situation? So if you're a safety patrol member, were you called out by base? If you're a conference assistant, were you doing rounds as part of the camp experience? Our RAs, did someone come knock on the door? Those kinds of things. We have to understand what was the mindset of what was going on. Why were you as a student there in the first place? And then, oh, you're not just there as a student, you're a staff member who is going to a situation for a reason. The middle, most people get the middle pretty good. That's the story. That's the A, B, C, D, these are the things that happened. But the end, that's the conclusion, that's the resolution. What happened? Were the police called? What did the police do? Was somebody arrested? Did somebody have to be moved rooms? If so, what room did they go to? Did you put a work order in? That's the big one I get, especially with facility issues. I have to reach back out to students and say, what's the resolution of this? Did you put a work order in? If not, I have to put one in, or somebody has to put one in to make sure this work gets done. So when you're writing these reports and you're thinking about, does this have the beginning, the middle, and the end? Everyone who is present, every staff person who was present at the incident, student staff-wise, should be working together to write this report. When there's 3 people at an incident, that's 6 sets of eyes. Yes, I had to count. That's 6 sets of eyes that saw something, that's 6 sets of ears that may have heard something, and you may have been over here dealing with this person while, Josh took somebody else over there to deal with them, to calm them down. So there may be something I saw that Josh didn't, and vice versa. What's people's role? When you're writing a report, what's their title? Who are they? Or were they the person who called you? Were they the person who just randomly showed up and said, this is my room, but I have no idea what's going on? Let us know what's going on. And using their titles with that. So if it's an RA, if it's an officer, safety patrol member, and after the first time you use the full title, you can abbreviate it. So for example, with my position, we abbreviated RCC, but we have to know that first time what it is. Same thing with individuals' names, getting their full name, especially if you know somebody goes by a nickname. So my name is Nikki Kogan, right? That's how I introduce myself. My legal name, stuff that's in an email and all that, is actually Nicole. So if someone tries to Google Nikki, they may get different information than if they Google Nicole. So it's really important that or if someone goes by a completely random nickname like Shorty. Who's Shorty? We're not gonna have that in our system. So making sure you actually know what their names are, and especially for summer, we're gonna have a lot of guests. So if we don't have their names right, or if we don't know if they're a coach, we don't know if they're a contractor, we don't know if they're just some random person walking around and they actually shouldn't be here to begin with, that's important to find out. And then third person. If you're not familiar with third person, that's okay. It's when you're writing, let's say I'm writing a story that Residential Conduct Coordinator Nikki Kogan was asked by transition team member Josh Scroggins to attend a training in Center Point Suites. RCC Nikki attended the program on June 7th to provide the training, blah, 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 blah. So I'm not saying I did this, or we did this, or he did this, but I'm talking about it in that third person aspect, okay? And it is weird to write in, and every time you have to write your own name and your title and another person's name and title, it's weird. We do recommend that you limit when you use pronouns such as he, she, or they. The reason for that is, let's say there's 6 people at an incident, 3 men, 3 women, you say she, I don't know what she you're talking about. Are you talking about yourself? Are you talking about the 2 other women? So using, and it gets a little obnoxious at times, but using the person's name over and over again is going to be one of the most important things. And then also reports, it's very important. You may be upset. Someone may have been yelling and cursing at you. I know you guys have had customer service training for you to be objective in the report. Now you can write exactly what they wrote, and you can quote exactly what they called you or said to you. Absolutely put that in, but don't say that, don't talk about maybe what your perceptions were. Oh, that person was high as a kite. Well, what does that actually mean? How did you know they were high? What behaviors did they exhibit that informed you that that person was high? Did they smell? Were they stumbling? Did they have slurred speech? Were their eyes glazy? Those things happen because we're not present. We're not there with you. Same thing with noise. Oh, the noise was so loud. How loud? Because I actually have really bad hearing. I'm partially, I say I'm partially deaf, but I don't have hearing aids. I don't help myself, but that's another issue. But yeah, I do have really bad hearing, so something that's loud to you is not necessarily loud to me. So is it loud enough that you could hear it 5 doors down, loud enough that you had to stand outside the door before you could hear it, or loud enough that you could hear it before you even got out of the elevator and the room was at the end of the hall? So things like that, the objectivity is going to be really important. So this is just a fun video that I like to show students. So as you're on rounds or doing things, just something to be aware of.
How many passes does the team in white make? Go! The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
For many years. The purpose of the video is if you're only looking for one thing while you're doing rounds or while you're at an area, you might miss other things. Or if you're only paying attention to one aspect of a situation, you may not see or realize that other things are going on. So just something to keep in mind when you're doing rounds or interacting with our camps and conferences. So this is just a location that you can find the incident reports. And so they are on our housing website. They're also available, if you can't remember the housing website, UWG Cares. And so you just click on that, you just type in those links, and you'll be able to find it. On the UWG Cares page is a big red button on the Housing and Residence Life page. And I'm going to show it to you here in a screenshot. It's just a little link at the bottom. So we're going to start going over the reports if you can pass that now. So this is the housing website. Can you guys see where it says report a concern? Right there. So as soon as you go to the housing website, it's just right there and you can click on that link. So I want to actually go through the different sections of the report so you understand what we're asking you to put in it. Now keep in mind this is a web-based report. So what's really nice is if you have an iPad or an iPhone and you're more comfortable typing on that, you can do it on that too. It does not time out unless the device you're using times out. So that's what's really nice about this product that we use. So in this first section, the background information is for the person who is physically sitting at the computer typing the report. But there should be other people around, and we'll show you how to enter that information. Nature of report. This has to be housing and residence life. Because when you mark it as something else, because there's a whole drop-down menu, it impacts who this report is sent to and who gets copies of the report. During the summer, it's not too much of a concern because we have a lot of staff doing a lot of different multiple roles, but especially during the school year, if you're going to be staying on during the school year time, it is very important because it goes to very specific people, and that one line impacts who the report gets routed to in our system. This is what's key too. I've gotten a lot of reports from 1902 because people don't realize this is backwards from the way we learn here in the United States. We usually do month, day, year, right? This is year, month, day. If that's not normal for you, it's not something you do usually, just use the little calendar icon and you can just click on the date. But yeah, I get a lot of reports from the wrong decade or the wrong century because people don't pay attention to that. So, location of the incident. This first drop-down menu, again, it impacts who gets a copy of the report. So it's really important you actually pick the specific residence hall. Every building at West Georgia is in that drop-down menu. So even if it spans 4 different buildings, do it from the first location where the major incident happened. If someone got arrested from Center Point, put in Center Point, those kind of things. The specific location is where you can put the room number, the hallway, the parking lot, the lounge space, things along those lines. You'll probably be going through training with a gentleman named Willie Black. He is our Title IX Coordinator, Social Equity Officer, and he'll be training you on sexual misconduct policy here at West Georgia and what your response as housing employees is expected, because that's a whole separate kind of issue. But the big thing to really be aware of when you write a report of that kind of nature is you're going to change the urgency of the report to critical. Now keep in mind, 99.999% of the time, you're not even going to have to pay attention to the urgency of the report. But in the event that you do have to write one of those reports, you have to change that to critical because, again, it impacts who the report is sent to. So let's talk about the involved parties section. This is actually where you're going to list all the people who were involved. So you're writing the report, you don't have to list yourself again, but you're going to list everyone else who was around and who may have come to the incident. If you need to add more than one person, you just click on the add another person button and it drops down. I think you can do up to like 15 or 20 people, and there's only, in the 3 years that I've been here, maybe twice ever that someone has had to submit 2 reports because they didn't have enough space to list everybody's name. Yes, ma'am?
So, if you're dealing with an incident or you're writing a report about an incident and there was like 5 people drunk in a lobby or something, you're supposed to get their 917 so that you can. Okay.
Yep. Yes, ma'am. You can ask housing staff, you can ask them for their ID. If they refuse to give you their university ID or even give you their name, document that in the report, but also describe what they look like. What did you see them earlier? Have you seen them in the building before? Did they have, maybe the shirt they're wearing had the camp name on it? Those things kind of help us to figure out what's going on, because what happens is I have access to the cameras. I can then go back, maybe find them on the camera, see if they swiped in at any point, because it is also a violation of the student code of conduct for students not to comply with requests of university officials, which you are as housing employees. But absolutely, if you request their ID or their license and they refuse to give it to you, document that, but also try to describe them in some other ways. Okay? So you can add all the folks, but just please make sure you spell their name correctly. And also, if you're not good with numbers, that's okay, but make sure you're writing down the numbers clearly. Make sure you're typing the numbers clearly. I understand every now and then you might hit an extra 4 or 3, but it impacts then, because what happens is this information feeds directly into our database for conduct. And what happens is I might send the wrong person a letter because you messed up their 917. So, and I usually double check, but mistakes happen, we're all human, but it's really important that you make sure you're putting in the correct information. So, and again, if you're going to list somebody up here as an involved party, when you write the story, when you write that beginning, middle, and end, their name better be listed in there, otherwise I don't know why they're there. Okay, so I want to talk to you about roles. So if you see the 3rd line over is where it says role, there's a couple different things you can pick from. Alleged. So alleged is usually what we utilize for a person who has allegedly violated our student code of conduct, housing policy, state and federal law. That's really what that term is for. Victim is the person who was harmed in some way by the situation or negatively impacted during this incident. A witness, this may be the person who was around, but they didn't violate any policies or laws. Maybe they're the person who called the complaint in, or perhaps they came to help you during a situation, things along those lines. Student concern, non-conduct info only, you might, especially during the summer, use those less. That's really for maybe someone told you recently their grandfather passed away and they were really close with their grandfather. We use these reports for that kind of stuff too, because it helps us know what's going on with students in our buildings. So this is where you're going to write the story. This is what we call the description narrative. Yes, ma'am?
So, you said student concern. So, like, if somebody tells us, like, somebody comes up to us and they're really sad about their grandpa passing away, we should fill out a vaccine about it?
It's helpful, yes. Now, typically, that's more so going to be for the RAs during the school year, because that's the relationship they build with them. For folks who are on safety patrol or during the summer for conference assistants, you're probably not going to get a lot of that information. But yeah, letting us know about that, because they may have told you that they have a concern about their grandpa passing away. Maybe they also told a professor. Or maybe they're already in counseling for that, because our counseling staff have access. There may be nothing I do with the report more than I just make it an information only, because you're letting full-time housing staff know what's going on with the students on our properties. So that maybe, you know, for you, they told you they're sad about their grandpa dying, but their roommate submits a report because they say, my roommate doesn't leave the room, they cry all day, they're not eating. There's a bigger concern going on. You didn't know about all that stuff, but we do because we got a report. Does that make sense? So that's where the student concern non-conduct info only really comes in, because we use these reports in this database for more than just disciplinary conduct reasons. It's to really help students. Okay? So again, the description narrative is where you're going to write the report. What's really nice about this box, can you guys see in this bottom right-hand corner? On the website, you can click on that and drag it down, and it makes the box bigger. So you can actually see it larger. And so this is where you're going to write the report. This is where you write the story of what happened. But again, if you listed someone in the involved party, they need to be in this box. And if they're in this box, they should also be in the involved party section. Additionally, you can write in paragraphs. This can be like essay format. I've gotten 3-page, 1 paragraph before. It's kind of hard to read that way. So think about if you have to write a lot of stuff, how would you want to read it? You can break it up into paragraphs, and that's okay. What's nice too is it has a built-in spell check and preview, so you can make sure that everything is spelled correctly. Because here's the thing, these reports, depending on what the nature of the report is, it may get subpoenaed. It may be given to the court. It may go up to the president of the university. If the student may be suspended or expelled because of what happened, and they appeal, they can appeal all the way up to the University System of Georgia Board of Regents. So there's a lot of people that can read these reports. So what I typically tell staff is if you're writing a report that you wouldn't turn into a professor, don't turn it into me, okay? Because we need it to be that same quality. You're a housing and staff person, we also want to help you with your writing skills. Because regardless of what your major is, regardless of what your future profession is, you're going to be writing. There's going to be some type of writing. And we want to help you build those skill sets. So keep that in mind when you're writing these reports. Now, we don't require you guys to take photos, but if there's an incident where you feel like photos would help, such as a hole punched in a wall, or maybe the police department asks you to take a photo of something, you can actually upload all those documents there. Maybe someone sent you a text message or an email or a screenshot of something. You can take screenshots and also upload those as well.
What if, like, for the incident, if they didn't want to give us the 917 number, if we secretly snap a photo?
I recommend, don't do it secretly. If you're going to take a photo of them, you can say, fine, but then I'm going to have to take your photo.
No.
So, because again, your safety is the most important thing. And especially as a staff person, we have nothing to hide. This is our job. We have to get names and 917s. You refuse to give it to me. My other option is I take your photo. Or, especially with students, what we have also found is, well, you can either give me your name and 917, or I'm going to have to call the University Police Department, and they will have to get your name and 917. And we've typically found that if you say that, they'll be like, oh, no, here's my ID. I don't want to deal with the police. Okay? But if they just flat out refuse and say, but here's the thing, if you're going to threaten that you're calling UPD, you got to actually follow up and call UPD. Okay? But it also depends on what the incident is. For example, if it's like a low level, they have a candle in their room, we know what room it is. We can figure out who the person is, right? Or if, they start running away, because your safety and security is the most important thing. We don't want you running after that person. That's getting their name, we'll figure that out. We'll find someone who knew them, or you can ask people around. Especially, let's say there's 5 people in a room, find the owner of the room. Go talk to the owner of the room and be like, dude, it's gonna help you out, or ma'am, it's gonna help you out if your friends cooperate with us. And usually that works out too. One last step, you guys have seen these, right? They just want to make sure you're not a robot. So you have to fill in the letters and then hit submit report. Once you submit the report, you'll get a confirmation page that says, thanks for submitting the report, we appreciate it, and it'll have a number attached to it. If you don't get to that page, your report has not been submitted. Also, be careful. Sometimes if you wrote a lot, it takes a couple of seconds, and especially if maybe your internet is slow, not to hit the submit report button more than once. I've gotten 3 reports once. It was all the same exact report because I think the person was a little impatient. So make sure, look at the tab, make sure the little thing is spinning. So I want to give you all some practice now in writing reports. So I have a couple of examples here, and since there's only 2 of you, we'll kind of help and assist you. There's some bad reports that I want to review, and I want you to, based on what we discussed, I'm going to give you a few minutes. Let's have you do report 1 and 3, and you can do reports 2 and 4. Definitely that was great. Definitely when it's alcohol, knowing the amount is really helpful to us. Because there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in the room. 5 people in the room and they have a 12-pack. That's very different than 5 people in the room and they have a case plus 2 handles of vodka. That's a very different type of party than a 12-pack, right? So those kind of details are really important. Also, there is a difference between drinking alcohol and drinking beer and being aware of what that means, because we talk to students about decision making. But no, that was wonderful. Definitely some typos that are in here. There's some texting language going on. The RA flip-flops between first and third person. The date is great, but I don't know why the RA went to the room. I don't know what the context is. Was she on call? Did she hear the noise and decide to confront it? Was she even on duty? What was going on there? So typically, this RA would probably get an email from me asking for some clarifying questions. So let's go to report 2. Shaniqua, what would you have for this one?
Well, we said that they didn't state their name in 917. They used pronouns. And we said that Stephanie, she didn't say what her last name was. And they kept repeating. When they repeat, they should have put the last name. And they put key instead of Austin. And they didn't put the date or time.
And keep in mind too, Stephanie may not live in room 123. She may just have been there. So this is kind of a real life situation. There will be times where you'll get a call from base saying, hey, UPD wants you to meet them at such and such room, because they just want to inform you that they're arresting somebody or something happened that they addressed. So you may not get all the information, but you can always ask the police officers for, that was good by the way, Shaniqua, sorry about that. But you can always ask the police officers for a report number. So what happens when I read that report, I'm gonna wait for the police report as well that's connected to that report number. I would be careful. Weed is really a colloquialism. It's a common use term. Not everyone calls it that. So use correct terminology. Marijuana. Did he say how much? What kind of pipes? Were they actually pipes or were they bongs? Things along those lines. I don't know, that was good. So we didn't get to report 3, but I just want you to be aware of it. It is okay if you are quoting someone and they curse at you, you type in the word that they use. We have had reports with the F word in it. We've had reports with the C word in it. We've had reports with the N word in it. You're not going to offend anyone when writing it out, because that's a little unprofessional. So if they are saying these terms, use those terms when you're writing it. Again, this is 2 men, or I'm assuming Chris is a male name, I don't know, but if it is, that's a lot of he's. I don't know what's going on. Same thing with the hell. You know, what is it that you're trying to say? Report 4, did you guys get to that one?
Was that you?
Yes, actually, yes. It's okay.
Yes, we said that there was, we didn't know who we was. There was no date and time. They didn't say what building they were at. We didn't know who the people were. They had to say 2 people, order 917. And they didn't describe where the candle was located. And and it didn't say which direction they went, and it could have reworded the last one.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it was wonderful, it was great. Definitely, so if this is Arborview, the counter, do you know how many counters are in Arborview? There's the individual bedroom, there's the 2 bathrooms, there's the living room, there's the kitchen. So I don't know if I need to send a letter to an individual student or all 4 students. So that's key, that was great. They left when we told them to. How long though? Had it been, by the time you got to room 456, had it been 5 minutes? Had it been 2 minutes? Because there's a difference too. If someone's like, I was in the shower, okay, I get it, it was only a minute and a half, okay. Versus, it's been 15 minutes, you completed your shower before you left the building. That's a concern for us when we have a fire alarm going on. So did you also see something interesting in that they checked those 4 rooms, but yet 242 is now here. So is it 243, is it 242? What room did they actually go into? See, it's very easy to miss, absolutely, absolutely. So report 5, this was really just to show an example. So they listed Rebecca Pritchett in the involved party section. She's not listed here, but who is? Residence Bex. Right, so I don't necessarily know that Bex is Rebecca Pritchett. And Becky doesn't actually go by that, she goes by Becky FYI. So, she's our RLC for University Suites. So that's something to keep in mind too, when you guys are using those nicknames. Another key thing, residence, that's a building. Resident, D-E-N-T, is a person. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're writing these reports. All right? So now, I want to be able to show you guys what a good report looks like. That's a lot, right? There's a lot that goes into this. So I'm going to give you a copy of it. I'll let you read it on your own. But one of the things that's in this report is that at one point, 2 of the RAs split up. So RA White took one resident and an officer somewhere, and RA Sharp took a different resident went another direction. So it's okay if those 2 RAs wrote 2 separate reports and submitted them. That's fine, but also they don't have to. They can just write one report. And then, but in the one report, they split it up and explain it from their own perspectives. Okay? So that's why I wanted to show you that. But also, good reports may be lengthy, and that's okay. It really is. I will never say you put too much detail in a report. If you're not sure if you should put that detail in it, put the detail in it. Okay? Unless it's you just saying, I really hate this person, then that's not objective and don't do that. Okay, so when you write a report, again, submit the report. It really should be done within an hour after the incident is completed. You should also submit a report. You asked a question earlier about the person telling you their grandfather died. Absolutely. We just want to make sure that you're just letting staff know that we're aware of something. And then when in doubt, write a report. If you're not sure if you should or not, submit a report. Again, I will never tell you not to submit a report, but that's just something to keep in mind. Something else that I want to show you all, in every residence hall front desk, there is a confidential memo binder. This notebook will have, this is what the cover will look like. This is a copy of the one that's in Restar, currently in Restar base. There are times periodically throughout the year where someone may be restricted from housing, they may have a no contact directive in place with another student, they may be restricted from a building or from campus, and we need to let our housing and residence life staff know that. So that's what these binders are for. In the binder, there will also be this expectation sheet. You as housing staff are not expected to have every single person memorized, but it is part of your expectations that you do review the binder because there may be updates we want you to be aware of. So already we've updated the binders for this coming year. There's already people in there that have restrictions for this coming year that as staff who are responsible for ensuring the people who are in the building are supposed to be in the building, it's gonna be good for you to know that and review that. So again, every residence hall front desk will have it. So for example, University Suites, where's their front desk?
Suite Center?
In the Suite Center, so the book will be in there. And so this is only for housing and residence life staff. It is not to be shared with non-staff members. But we do encourage you to review it. And if you're not sure, if you're at an incident, you're like, I think I remember this person's name, call back to base and ask base to check the report and to check the binder. Okay, and then they can provide you the updated information. Because the main binder that we will utilize to connect every other building with will be the one at base. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, so again, big things to remember. Your reports need to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You need to make sure to review that confidential memo binder. Need to get reports in within the hour after they're completed. Now, there are some staff in this room who you've gotten incident report follow-up email from Nikki, right? What does that mean?
Maybe I wasn't clear with like how I described somebody, or maybe I didn't give enough detail, or maybe you just want me to see what else happened. Like if it was a wellness check, maybe you just want me to follow up and tell you what happened after.
Josh?
Same thing, wasn't enough detail, following up, some questions that I didn't answer, some things I omitted. Just adding some extra information.
Did I ever yell at you?
Oh,
No.
No. Okay. Did you get in trouble?
no.
No. So if I ever have to follow up about a report that was submitted, it's not because you're in trouble, it's not because you're bad. It's one, we want to make sure that you know how to write the report correctly, but then two, to get more details so that if we have to hold a student accountable, we can hold them accountable appropriately and correctly, and we're not doing something incorrectly. And then three, it's about you as students. We want to help develop you to move you forward, to do better and be better, right? Now, if it's, so you're being trained in June, let's say you write a couple of reports here and there, but then we're now in October, you're still a staff member, and you're still making the same mistakes that you made back here in June, that may be something your supervisor follows up with you about, because I will always include your supervisor on the correspondence that I send you, because I want them to be aware that I'm reaching out to you. Again, it's not because you're in trouble, I just want them to know. But if you have some other issues going on, that can impact your employment. Another thing, you all are students. The other students you work with are students. You all are accountable to the Student Code of Conduct, as well as the Housing and Residence Life Policies and Regulations. So if you see another student, regardless of their employment status, violating policies, same thing, you should be documenting a report. On the flip side of that, if you are violating policies, same thing, they can write a report about you. And you will be held accountable even during the summer, even if you're not taking classes, you are still accountable until you graduate and leave West Georgia to the Student Code of Conduct and the Housing and Residence Life Policies. So if you're not aware of what those are, I highly encourage you to read them, okay? So now the last thing that I want to do, let's say I'm involved in an incident. What do? I watched an incident happen, I now have to write a report. What do?
Scroll down.
You report an incident or concern.
Where? This is the West Georgia website. So where do I go?
You go to the housing website.
Okay, what's the housing website?
/housing.
Okay. Yep, it's on the handout that I gave you. That's why I gave you the handout, okay? Now what do? Now I scroll?
To your right,
Also
also
the
the
bottom.
big button, report a concern.
Okay. Yay. Let me minimize this a little bit. So yeah, so this is what the page looks like. And again, this is very important to keep in mind that we don't check these over the weekend per se, we don't check them late at night. So if you need immediate assistance, you need to be calling UPD or Res Star Base. And this is a public page, anyone can write a report. So if someone comes to you and says, I need to write a report, you can tell them how to do this. So this is what it looks like. As Housing and Residence Life staff, you are a university employee, you are not allowed to be anonymous. If you are writing a report about an incident that happened while you were in the performance of your job duties, you cannot be anonymous. So see, and then this is what it looks like to add another person. And then, oh, I think making the box bigger, you have to be in Google Chrome. That's what you can, to make this box bigger, but it also does scroll, but if you want to do that, you can. Cool? So very good, good job. And that's it. So any questions, any thoughts?